Temptation. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, He will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it. Here the word temptation appears 3 times. And this word in Greek, perasmos, it occurs 21 times in the New Testament. It has 2 meanings according to the context. First, test or trial. Second, temptation. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, ESV, NKJV, HCSB, NIV all translate this into temptation. So here, let's look at the difference between test and temptation. Temptation is connected with sin. The sinful nature of man, the evil world, and the devil and demons are working together to tempt people to sin. God tests people, but never tempts them. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 17, it says, "By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac." Here it says, God tested Abraham's faith. In James chapter 1, verse 13, it says, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and He Himself tempts no one." Likewise, God never tempts people, but He tests them. This is when the Greek perasmos means test. James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." Next, the Greek perasmos is translated into temptation. The first one is from Matthew chapter 6, verse 13. "And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." The second one is from 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 9. "But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction." In order to understand verse 13 better, we will take a little time to understand its context from verse 6 through 12. The Apostle Paul explains 4 sins of the Israelites. In verse 6, he says, "These are examples for us, that we might not desire evil as they did." He says, "Do not be idolaters. Do not indulge in sexual immorality. Do not put Christ to the test. Do not grumble like they did." In verse 12, "Therefore, let anyone who thinks that he stands take heed lest he fall into sin." Then he starts talk about temptation, which leads people to sin. So again, verse 13, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, He will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it. The word endure is in Greek hupophero. Hupo means under. Phero means bear or carry. So it means to bear up a thing placed on one's shoulders, or to bear up under it or against it. You can see here there is God's part and our part while we are tempted. God will help us, and with that help, we should endure the temptation. To sum up, first, the temptations in our life are no different from what others experience. Secondly, faithful God keeps us from temptation beyond our ability. Finally, God will help us to be able to endure it, but it is we who have to endure it. Thank you for watching this, and I hope you to be encouraged to endure the temptation you have now in our faithful God's help.